We've all had that moment. That single, nagging thought that whispers, if only. If only I could go back and say something different. If only I could witness the pyramids being built or see a dinosaur with my own eyes. Time travel for most of us is the ultimate what-if scenario. It's the dream of a second chance, the fantasy of rewriting a mistake, and the ultimate ticket to seeing history up close. Sci-fi movies and books have given us a vivid image of what it could be, a flash of light, a temporal distortion, and then a new reality. But what if we're all missing the point? What if the biggest challenge with time travel isn't building the machine, but dealing with the mind-bending, reality-shattering paradoxes that would make our universe collapse on itself? The truth is, the moment we figure out how to travel through time, we may have to face a far bigger question. Can we even exist in a universe where the past can be changed? The core paradoxes, why it breaks reality. Before we even consider the possibility of a time machine, we have to grapple with the problems that have haunted physicists and philosophers for decades. These aren't just fun, fictional plot devices, they are fundamental roadblocks to the very idea of altering the past. The grandfather paradox. This is the most famous and arguably the most terrifying time travel problem. It's elegantly simple. What happens if you go back in time and prevent your own grandfather from meeting your grandmother? If you succeed, then your parents are never born, which means you are never born. But if you were never born, you couldn't have gone back in time to prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother in the first place. The action of traveling through time makes the very cause of that action impossible. It's a logical contradiction, a causality loop that leads to a single, inescapable conclusion. A paradox so severe, it would likely cause the timeline to unravel. Think of it this way. A time traveler, let's call him Alex, travels to 1950 to see the world. He's at a cafe and he sees a young man about to step into traffic. He pushes the man out of the way, saving him. But that man was his grandfather, and he was supposed to meet Alex's grandmother in that exact spot, after being delayed by the near miss. By saving him, Alex inadvertently changes the course of history, and the meeting never happens. Alex's parents are never conceived, and therefore Alex is never born. So who was it that saved the grandfather? It couldn't have been Alex because he doesn't exist. The paradox collapses in on itself. The bootstrap paradox. Also known as an ontological paradox, this one is less about destroying the timeline and more about breaking the very rules of cause and effect. It involves an object or piece of information with no origin, existing in a perpetual time loop. Imagine you're a time traveler, and you go back in time to meet William Shakespeare. You take a copy of his complete works with you. When you meet him, he's in a creative slump. To inspire him, you give him the book. Shakespeare reads it, copies it word for word, and publishes it as his own. He becomes the legendary playwright we know today, but who actually wrote the plays? They exist because you brought the book back in time. You brought the book back because you knew they were Shakespeare's work. But Shakespeare only wrote them because you gave him the book. The plays exist without ever having a true creator. The information is its own origin, a self-sustaining loop that defies logic. The same could happen with a time machine itself. A future version of you gives a past version of you the schematics to the time machine, which you then build. Who invented it? The causal loop. This is a variation on the bootstrap paradox, but it's less about objects and more about events. A causal loop is a sequence of events that becomes locked in a self-perpetuating cycle with no external cause. For example, a time traveler learns about a historical fire from a history book. He travels back in time to investigate the fire, but he arrives in the past, a time before the fire started. The time traveler accidentally starts the fire. He goes back to his own time and reads about the fire in his history book, which was started by him. The fire has no beginning. It was always started by the time traveler, who only went back in time because of the fire. The very act of investigating the past caused the past to be. These paradoxes suggest that the universe might have a built-in defense mechanism against time travel, a kind of cosmic immune system that prevents us from ever breaking the fundamental rules of causality. But what if there are ways around it? Theories of resolution. Can we fix it? For every paradox, there is a theory that attempts to resolve it. These aren't just scientific theories, they're philosophical frameworks that reshape our understanding of reality. The fixed timeline theory. This theory is a popular one, often seen in a lot of time travel fiction. It suggests that the past is unchangeable, like a fixed river. You can travel through it, but no matter what you do, you cannot alter its course. Every action you take in the past, every choice you make, was always meant to happen. This is a deterministic view of the universe. If you went back to save your grandfather, you would fail. Maybe a truck swerves and hits you, or maybe he simply walks away at the last second, and you're left watching him meet your grandmother exactly as he was supposed to. In this model, the grandfather paradox is impossible. You would be a part of the causal loop, not an agent of change. You couldn't have prevented your own birth, because your existence is a fixed point in the timeline. This theory provides a clean solution, but it also strips time travel of its primary appeal, the ability to change something. It turns us from active participants into passive observers, tourists in our own past. The parallel timelines, multiverse theory. This is perhaps the most exciting and least restrictive theory. It suggests that every time a choice is made, the universe splits into two separate parallel realities. If you go back in time and change something, you don't alter your own timeline. Instead, you create a brand new one. You would be a visitor to a new universe, and your original timeline would continue to exist, unaffected. With this theory, the grandfather paradox is not a problem. You go back in time, prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, and the universe simply splits. In this new universe, you don't exist. But in your original universe, the one you came from, you're still alive and well. You would be stuck in this new, altered reality, but your existence would still be secure in the universe you left behind. This theory is compelling because it allows for an infinite number of outcomes and possibilities, but it also means that you can never truly fix anything in your own past. You would just be creating a different version of it. The Novikov self-consistency principle. Named after Russian physicist Igor Dmitrievich Novikov, this principle is more of a law than a theory. It argues that the laws of physics themselves would prevent any paradoxical actions from ever occurring. It's similar to the fixed timeline theory, but instead of the universe being a fixed river, it's more like a set of rules that cannot be broken. You simply cannot do something that creates a paradox, no matter how hard you try. So, if you tried to go back and kill your grandfather, you would simply fail. The gun might jam, you might get a sudden disabling cramp, or a random person might step in the way at the last moment. The universe would find a way to prevent the paradox from ever happening. It is a powerful concept because it suggests that causality is not just a consequence of physics, but a fundamental law that is as unbreakable as gravity itself. The final shift, a world reshaped by time. Even if we found a way to solve the paradoxes, a world with time travel would be irrevocably changed. History, as we know it, would cease to exist. Why would we read a history book when we could simply go back and witness the events for ourselves? It would be the ultimate form of tourism, a living, breathing museum. But who would control this technology? Would it be a tool for good to prevent wars and disasters? Or would it be a weapon used to erase enemies and rewrite victories? The ethics of intervention would be a constant, terrifying debate. The loss of spontaneity would also be a heavy price to pay. If everyone knew their future, would they still live? Would they still fall in love, or would they just be going through the motions? This timeline may seem like a fantasy, but it shows us just how balanced our world truly is. If you want to keep exploring the what-ifs and see how our world could be different, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Timeline Shift, and get ready for our next adventure.